Hey everyone, welcome to Aqua Life 2. If you have not seen my Aqua Life Soaps 1, which is the making of the embeds, all of those little fishies and seahorses and other little goodies you see to the side there, to the right side and up toward the corner, then I recommend you give that a watch. Some very informative chatter about making embeds and how I hand painted my embeds with mica, soap safe and body safe, and all the safe, good stuff you can ask for in a mica. And that is Aqua Life 1 mostly. So now, Aqua Life 2, I'm making a soap. I'm making a little mini aquarium soap with these. They end up looking like, well, at least the idea of them, of the look I want, is a fishbowl, little bitty fishbowl. And they come out quite cute, in my opinion. I might be a little biased on that, but I think they come out really cute. Um, that is today's. And then there will be an Aqua Life 3, which is a full sized, a larger rectangle shaped aquarium soap. Or it really, I call it an aquarium soap. I call it Aqua Life, but it really looks also to me like the bottom of the sea floor, like a little, maybe near a coral reef or something like that, or like the little um, aquarium look that comes up on your TV sometimes if you the little screensaver that looks like an aquarium. It's similar to that. But for today, let's get going with this. I'm taking some neon shredded soap. These are larger shreds, and the way you get larger shreds is to use a larger hold shredder. So cheese shredder that has large holes. If you have the box kind that have different textures on each side, use the one with the largest holes and you'll get larger shreds. Another item, sometimes you can find a vegetable shredder that has larger holes to make larger shreds as well. So that's what I use to shred my soap usually, and in this case for sure. And I took those shreds and I'm twisting them. I'm not just twisting them hard like you would a bread tie. You want to kind of pretend like you're wrapping it around something, or if you can't get the feeling of that, um, actually wrap it around something. Get something really thin like a wire or a toothpick and wrap it around until you get the feel of what it feels like, and then you might be able to do it without, like I'm doing here. I did, for an extra little touch on some of them. You'll see where I angle that cut at the top there. That gives it a little bit of a point, and that's the look I want. These are imitating the little fake plants that you sometimes see in aquariums, specifically like little seagrasses or something like that. I know somebody in my soap groups knows the name of the little sea plants and stuff like that. There's a specific name, and I forget it, and I'm sure I'll be reminded. And if so, we'll share that in the comments with you. But either way, little plants these are the little fake plastic ones that you might find in a fishbowl, or that you might put in a fishbowl, since that's the idea of this soap. I do put a few other little goodies in there, and you'll see those as we move along, as I start putting the soap together. Each one has a little animal, little fish, or a seahorse, or a seahorse and the baby. Um, because these are really small soaps, so you really only need one. And there's a lot of texture going on with the little seagrass and little other stuff going on. So that was why I did that with these. These are tiny molds. They're 2.5 ounces, I believe. I got this mold from Makesy, and I don't know if they still make it, but if they do, it is well worth the purchase. Um, it has a very smooth, shiny, rounded edge at the front. It's kind of hard to see that looking down at it right now, but it's got a very rounded edge without it being a dome. It's not a dome soap. It's just rounded, and it's really nice. Anyway, it's a very elegant look, I think, and it definitely gives the image of a fishbowl. But as you see on screen right now, I am chopping. I'm chopping little slivers of soap. I took scraps and cut them into slivers, little matchstick sizes, and then I'm cutting while angling the knife a little bit. You don't have to angle the knife. I like to. I like for these to not be completely uniform little cubes because I want it to look like gravel, and I've never seen gravel look like uniform cubes before. So I try to make it look a little bit more organic, even though that gravel is, kind of a manufactured kind of stuff. But you could go with whatever color gravel you want. I chose to go with a blue and white theme. I did have a darker, you'll see it out there. I have a darker blue, like a navy, that I originally was going to go with. And then I didn't like the way it looked with all the neon colors of the other embeds. So I've done a variety of different colors and styles of these soaps, and it didn't work well with the neon to me with the navy. Would have gone with some of the other ones I've done in the past. I probably even used it in the past. You will get a chance to see some of those at the end of this. I don't just show you pictures at the end of the soaps you're seeing me make now, but of some other ones I've done in the past. Some are also little mini aquarium soaps like these, um, and some are not. Some are a similar style, but with other elements that you will see when they come up at the end. I mixed in the blue and white gravel here. You may have just seen me mix in a little bit of green. I just took a couple of the pieces of grass that I did not use and diced them up in there. It added just a touch of a color, an element to me that I thought was missing with just the blue and white. It needed a third color, and you can barely see it, but it satisfied me. So um, I get picky sometimes. So there's that. Why am I putting my mold up against the side of another mold? Why am I standing it up like that? You're about to see. I'm using premium crystal clear by it's Crafter's Choice melt and pour soap. Premium crystal clear is the clearest you're going to find for melt and pour. And it is, I find mine, I buy mine through Wholesale Supplies Plus. I'm not affiliated with them at the moment. However, I am affiliated with Mad Micas. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. But just so you know, if you follow any of my links for Mad Micas, I will receive a commission for that. I wanted to quickly jump back to what I'm doing here so you can see that I'm adding a tiny bit of soap, just enough so it doesn't spill out the bottom there. It's just angled a little. And then I'm adding my gravel to that. And anytime you want to add something to one side of a soap, it really does help to angle it like that when you have a rounded soap like this, or just any kind of a single cavity soap. Or, well, this one's got 4 cavities, but whatever. If you're doing a single soap rather than a big loaf. But we angle loaves too to get certain looks. And so why not angle your individual soaps as well, individual molds? So this is the gravel look. And as you see now, I'm going to begin to layer. And my first layer is nothing but that crystal clear soap. And it is a tiny amount. I doubt you can see how little it is, but it's probably less than a teaspoon. Tiny amount. I'm pouring it pretty hot. In this type of layering you do. I think I'm pouring around 130. Um, but I'm pouring a very thin layer, and I'm spraying immediately after. I did let that first clear layer set up, and I'm pouring a second one. And now is when I stick in my embeds. I wanted a little tiny clear layer in the front because I didn't want the little seahorses and fish to look like they were part of the glass part of the aquarium. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it did to me. I wanted a small barrier between that and the front of the soap. Sometimes you can see the texture of the fish, etc., and I didn't want it to look like that. So here I'm putting in the main focal point of each soap, which is our little creature. So we've got fish, we've got seahorses. This one I think I add my seahorse baby to. Yep. And then we're going to go back, and I don't let this one set up. I spray it, and then I go in and pour a little bit more. And I don't even think I heated it up again at this point. I just let it go because it's still plenty fluid. And I put in a little bit more soap, and then I start putting in the seagrass or the little sea plants, the little pretend sea plants for your aquarium. Aquarium plants. There we go. That's what we're going to call them. And I'm just putting them in. I'm using a little um, plasticky stick, silicone stick. I'm not sure what it is, but somewhere there's a link to those as well. Those help me kind of adjust things. If I plop them in there and need to move them a little bit, I will use that sometimes to do that, among other things. It's a good stirring stick as well. They're made for resin, for stirring resin with, and they're quite handy for melt and pour soap, in my opinion. I chose to put 5 pieces of grass in each one. I know that probably doesn't even matter for most people, but I do like odd numbers when it comes to creating art pieces, and 5 is what seemed to fit perfectly. So that adds a different layer of texture and color to the soap without really detracting from the little fish or your main focal point. I get a little, I won't say, well, it is kind of picky. I do. I also notice when I'm putting those 5 in that sometimes there's some little spaces that might stand out as there's just like nothing on this side or nothing here. And so I add a few little bits and pieces here. I got those bits and pieces from other embeds. Sometimes when you're unmolding really delicate embeds like that, they break, and you don't ever throw those away. At least I don't ever throw those away. They make excellent little texture bits that just kind of help round out a design sometimes when you have a little empty spot or something. It depends on what you're making too, but certainly in something that's involving plant life of any kind, um, having a little textured branch or a little feathery looking thing that looks like it could maybe be a piece of coral or something looks really cool. It just adds some additional texture, color, and keeps it from looking too empty if you have that spot. And I had a couple of those spots in here, so I used a couple of those little bits. And I think I added, again, that was more soap that I just added. And now I'm going back in and putting in just a few little added touches. In a moment, you'll see me add the last layer. I do let the whole thing set up, and then I come in with a layer of clear blue. And that's why I let it set up, is because that last layer, I don't want it to blend in with what's still there or with what's still liquid. And I'm kind of creating at that point the look of blue, just blue. I wanted the aquarium to be blue water, but just a little bit. And here we go. That's it. That's the Color. It looks like toothpaste, but it's not. It's a gel or a paste, whatever you want to call it, colorant that won't bleed. And that's really important that it doesn't bleed, because if you use liquid dye, it's going to bleed into the rest of the soap. And I only wanted it at the back because then it doesn't change the colors of my embeds, and it doesn't mess with the clarity of my water. But it looks, when you turn it over, the whole thing looks like it's in blue water, but it's really not. It's just at the back. It's a neat illusion, and you can do that with Color. You can do it with the mica as well, but you just want to use very little or it will lose its clarity. And that's what I did with those. I think I had a couple here I had to trim. So I come back in with a knife and just scrape the little edges there very gently. It's you might have even been able to pull that off with your fingers. I don't know. But I used a knife because one of them was a little bit thicker than others. The little leftovers. But you don't have to do that. You can probably pour a little bit better than I can and not spill it on the sides and not need to trim it. But if you do need to trim it, it's okay. And a little knife or a little scraper of some kind usually is enough to just take that off. I don't do that until they're really well set up because that layer at the back is so thin. And I did, by the way, pour that quite hot. The last layer I poured hotter than the others, probably more like 133, because you really want it's going on to solid soap that's already set up. And so that helps it to stick. And because it's such a thin layer and cools so fast, you just want to ensure that it's going to stick to the layer underneath. I did spritz it once lightly with alcohol. No need to scrape it. You don't want those scratches showing up in there. But if your temperature is hot enough, you won't scrape it. And because everything underneath it is clear, you're not going to be melting anything. So here they are out and trimmed. And here you see our little guys. See the extra little texture? I don't know if you can see that little feathery looking thing off to the right and the little stems or branch-like looking thing peeking out. But to me, that adds a lot of texture and extra little color. You might not want to add those. That is absolutely fine. This is your design. If you're doing them, you do whatever you want. You paint your fish however you like. You don't even have to paint them. You can just do a plain fish and pour a colored soap, and I bet it would still be a beautiful, beautiful soap. Um, I get a little fancy sometimes, but that's the way I like to do things, and I like to create art with it and really um, make each one individual. But you might want to just pour a bunch with the same color fish because you might have a bunch to make for a sale coming up, something like that. But that's what's neat about soap makers is there's so many different things you can do with even the same design. But see how the edges are rounded when I turn it a little bit, hoping you can see that a it's not like a dome. It's flat on the front, but the where it's flat at the edge, it's not sharp. It's not a sharp edge. It's very slightly rounded, but it gives it a really neat illusion of being a little bowl, in my opinion, a little fish bowl. Um, I really was happy with these. I will, in a moment, be showing you a variety of what I've done with this mold. This one's my favorite, by the way. I love this guy. I love the way that the colors came out. The colors kind of work together really well, in my opinion. But the when I get to the light box pictures, I'm going to show you some other unique things I've done. And when those are going by, I want you to think about if you've enjoyed this video and my designs and my various tutorials. If this is your first one, welcome. If it isn't your first one and you like my stuff, think about subscribing if you haven't. Like the video really does help us quite a bit. Um, and if you really love us, think about joining our channel. We have a membership now, and we only have one tier so far, but we're working on the second tier as quick as we can. And we're going to be offering all kinds of fun little perks and neat ideas for the future that we want to include you in. And as a member, you would have access to a lot of fun things. And one of the things I'm toying with is creating a Discord group, a Discord community for my soaps and my soapers. And we'd get to share all kinds of things. You'd get to share your soaps with me, whereas on YouTube right now we can't do that. I thought that'd be kind of fun. But whether you do or not, I really thank you for your time. Thanks for watching my video, and thanks for spending the afternoon with me, or the evening, or the morning. Thank you so much. Bye.